Dear leader, how are you? I hope you're doing well in these very strange times that we are going through. We have a piece of dust that's keeping us indoors. But it's been fascinating what I've been saying every time in all of my meetings that I'm actually grateful for the virus and what it has brought to our awareness. One of the things that has been coming up a lot in my conversations with people, with leaders, has been this issue of expectations. What do I mean? So, as you know, my work is about evoking excellence in others and helping leaders develop consciousness and accountability. And I do it in two ways. I do it using therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, which is very much fast therapy. It's not one of those 32 years type of a thing. Sometimes people just come for one session and they're kind of sorted. And then the second part is doing coaching, where I work across the world with leaders across the globe. One thing I've said before, and I say all the time, is that leaders are people too. Leader is really just a label, a role, but it's not define. It doesn't define the person. So in the process of this thing, the person sometimes forgets, as we tend to, that a lot of the things that happen in our lives don't happen by accident. We tend to really create a lot of our circumstances. I know that there are exceptions, and people might debate and argue with me about it. That's also fine. The important part, though, is a lot of the stuff happens under our consciousness, such that we are not paying attention, we don't notice, but a lot of the stuff that happen, we have a lot of control over, particularly around how we react. And the one issue that people bring up is the issue of expectations. And where you have a couple, for example, coming in and fighting, and when you realize what the fight is about or the conflict is about, it is actually a conflict of expectations. Because every time we walk around with an idea, beliefs, values that define who we are. And we walk around with them assuming they are the truth. In walking around with them assuming they are the truth, we approach the rest of the world as if those beliefs and assumptions are the truth. And the one thing that I find happens in couples, in teams, in partners in a relationship, partners in at work, in business, is people think that we know their values, beliefs, assumptions explicitly when they have never really told us. Right? When was the last time you actually told someone, these are my value systems, this is what's important to me, and then created a space for feedback? Not often. Some people do it, but we generally tend to go into this whole automatic mode. And that by itself is what creates expectations. So when I meet someone, I work with them from the expectation and a belief of how I think the world should be. And I don't communicate, I don't share any of that because I don't think it's necessary. They should know, they must know, they are human like me. But no, they are not. There's 8 billion people in the world, and every single one of them is different. That's why every time people say the greatest, the most important element of a relationship is communication, they don't say you should be talking about the shoes that the children are wearing and whether or not children should be going to school. Those are important things, yes. But I find that couples, teams, leaders in general, they don't speak about things that matter. They don't speak about their expectations. So my expectation is when I believe that X should, must, supposed to act in this way, it is already a big challenge because did I contract with them? Did I tell them that that's what I need? And that leads to a war. The same happens when X comes to me and says, I'm expecting this. I see that. I want this. But at the same time, we've never really contracted and discussed that. So the whole issue of contracting, I see it coming across quite a lot in this COVID era, where when people are in fear, they really just rush and go back inwards into fear, into flight, into fight, into freeze mode. But they forget the most fundamental things. That says things have changed. The agreements, whether explicit or implicit, that we had pre-COVID and during COVID and possibly post-COVID should be, are going to be different. And in understanding that and being very explicit all the time, you already stand a chance of reducing a lot of conflict in relationships. So your expectations are not the truth. Your expectations are just your desires, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. But it's also important to understand that the person that is in front of you, whether it's your team member, whether it's your employee, whether it's your partner, your lover, etc., they are their own human beings with their own expectations. And until you can clarify and check, and again, I don't mean you should be doing it in those staid, really, let's sit down and contract type of a conversation. But I believe that as teams, we need to develop a routine around how we work with agreements and clarify expectations, such that when things don't work the way we expect, we can say, remember, this was our expectation. So we have a bit of a benchmark. And the same with couples, the same with parents, the same with people and family members. It is always around drawing your boundaries. And I've been doing a lot of that work around boundaries. So my advice, to wrap this up, so because it's already gone into a whole 7 minutes, your expectations are not the truth. Your expectations are not visible in your face, and your expectations are really just your expectations. There's absolutely nothing wrong with approaching your partner, approaching your parent, approaching anyone else and telling them what you need. And it is also important, as a human being that's navigating the relationship space, particularly in this very anxiety-provoking times, to also tell people, to ask people to be more explicit about their expectations, such that you get into a contract, you use the contract to navigate the relationship. Trust me, it will balance and it will solve a lot of anxiety. A smart man, recently I had an interesting session with Dr. Goldsmith, and he said this, and I really love this, and I'm taking it right now as a big piece of my conversation with people. When things, in times of great change, people need structure. And structure in human relationships is clarity of expectations. Don't think that because we've acted this way before COVID, we will act that way during this anxiety-provoking time. Manage it as a leader, manage it as a parent, manage it as a partner in a relationship. And I can guarantee your relationships will be a lot less anxiety-provoking. That's what I wanted to say. It took a bit long, but if you have other conversations, other ideas, feel free to comment on the comment box and engage with me, and let's talk. How have you managed expectations, one? And two, when have you found that expectations have created a challenge in your life? This is Dr Makhalima signing out. Happy post-COVID and happy, I don't know, have a great day.